friends, there's a famous quote about parenting. The days are long, but the years are short. And parents are encouraged to enjoy every memory. But let's talk about how to process your mental health in those moments. Stay tuned. I'm Ashley White, the host of Joy on the Journey podcast, a weekly podcast all about defining, finding, and maintaining joy on the journey of life. I promised transparent and informative interviews, and this week we are in for a treat. I have an expert with us this week, the Dr. Richelle Whittaker. She is an educational psychologist, parenting coach, and author. She's devoted to educating, equipping, and empowering parents. Dr. Richelle, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited, y'all. Can you tell? So, while I am not a mom, I know that so many of you watching are parents or aspiring parents. So I hope that you will stay tuned and write note. But Dr. Richelle, this podcast is about defining joy, finding joy, and maintaining joy on the journey. So if you had to define joy, what does it look like and smell like to you?
So for me, I would say joy is peace. Peace that you have no matter what is going on around you. It can oftentimes seem elusive, but I believe that you can get to that place. You can get to a place where you are in a steady state of peace.
So have you always had that definition?
No. I think that the definition came to me in the last few years. I had a definition of success, and prior to the pandemic, I was chasing what I define as success. And with that came a lot of, I would say, turmoil. But what I realized during the pandemic, when I slowed down and gave the Holy Spirit really room to do what he wanted to do, was that I was really seeking fulfillment, and not fulfillment and success can be, but don't have to be synonymous. And so what it became for me is one and the same. So success for me is fulfillment in the thing that God has placed in me to do. And so that has led me to having peace, because I'm not trying to force things or make things happen. I'm not trying to have to choose between my family and my career. It's settling into this place of peace and allowing God to have his way.
Wow. I think so many people, the pandemic gave them time.
Yes.
In that space when you're chasing in that rat race of, well, I gotta go, I gotta do, I gotta go. And the stillness, while it was incredibly sad,
Yes.
that we were forced to sit, but in that stillness of, well, what is important to me? What do I really want my life to mean?
Right.
If you had to be known for something for you, what would that be?
So if you're asking me just in general, a great mom and a great wife to my sons and to my husband, a great daughter, a great sister, a great friend. Because what I realized at the end of the day, the people that are closest to you are the people that will mourn your loss the greatest. You know, your life with them has the greatest impact. And so while I do desire to help others, I want to make sure I'm present and around, supportive of the people that are closest to me.
Absolutely. So I want to shift to your career as a educational psychologist and maternal mental health expert. What inspired you to pursue a career in the medical field and specifically mental health?
Ooh, so interestingly enough, I've wanted to do what I'm doing, different facets of it, since I was in high school.
Really?
So I took a psychology class and I fell in love, and then my friends would always just ask me for advice, and so it just seemed like a good fit. And so I've been in the pursuit of this field ever since.
Really? So you have always been that, hey, I got a question.
Yes. Gets on my family's nerves, but yes, like this doesn't make sense. Why is this and this and this? That doesn't make sense. And they're like, oh my gosh, she always has all these questions. But yes.
Yeah, okay, okay. So do you find yourself now as the person? Do you have to turn away your friends and say, okay, I'm not your therapist. You probably should see someone for that? Or do you still give them advice?
I don't know. I'm not really sure how they view me. I mean, they still come and, come to me and ask me questions, but it's not in a way where I feel like I'm having to put on my therapist hat.
Okay.
Now my husband has said, I am not your therapy client. Can you stop analyzing me? So he's told me that, but my friends not so much, because maybe I don't do it with them as much, and I do it more so with him. I don't know.
So do you believe that parents, especially mothers, would benefit from seeing a licensed therapist?
I do. Because there's a huge transition when you go from, just being you and your spouse to, or you as a single mom, or however that happens. Bringing a child into this world is a huge transition. And I think that is beneficial for a mom to have someone to talk to, not even when you're having a child, but as your kids transition and you find yourself transitioning and find yourself in different spaces. So moms who may be, going from even that transition from elementary to middle school, from middle school to high school, from high school to college, and then, from college to now, your child is often on their own. So every time there's a transition, I think it's helpful to have, a therapist to kind of talk about your feelings and what you're experiencing.
I have heard so many people, boy mom, girl mom.
Mm-hmm.
You are a mom of 2 boys.
Yes.
Do you feel pressure to get it right, whatever right is?
That's an interesting question. And it's interesting that you asked that, because I was just thinking about this today. I don't know if I necessarily what I want to impress upon my sons. I want to be honest and authentic with them. And so often I've heard, when couples are in marital distress, after a baby comes, and maybe the wife is experiencing some kind of depression or anxiety, I hear them oftentimes say, my mom didn't experience this. I even hear, women saying, well, why am I struggling? Because my mom didn't struggle. And, so we'll have to dig a little bit. But what I'm trying to do as a mom is to show my sons that I can be strong and have feelings at the same time. I can be strong and be emotional at the same time, because your kids watch you. Yeah. And so what I realize is that oftentimes as moms, we put up this, we don't want to, let our kids know that we're upset. And so they have no framework for that when they get into, relationships. Oh, my mom was strong and she didn't feel this and she didn't feel that. Yes, she did. She just didn't show you. And so I want to be honest with my sons and let them know, like, yeah, I very much have been sad. I've been depressed. I want to talk about it with them so that when they find themselves, in a similar situation or married and having struggles, oh yeah, my mom was strong, but she let us know that this is what, this is how she was feeling and this is how we can manage it.
Yeah. You want them to see your humanity.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that, because sometimes we idolize marriages, or we idolize mothers.
Yes.
We put them up on this pedestal because, and we should in certain respects, yes, right? We should respect them and hold them up in high esteem, but we don't allow them to be human.
Right.
And that's not fair to them.
Right.
Or to us, because they set a standard, but that's not the standard.
Right. Yes.
And so I think that's important and a great job. I often hear my mom friends talk about this thing called mommy guilt. What is it?
It's real. It's this feeling of really not ever doing enough, being enough, like, say for instance, I experienced it with my oldest son, leaving him for the first time. It's like, oh no, like, I shouldn't be doing this. I don't know if he's going to be okay. And it's really more about you than it is about them, because my son was fine. He was having the time of his life. He was like, mommy, who? Like, what? But for me, I was like, should I be doing this? Is this a good idea? Is it too early? All of the things that, you think about when you're doing something that's maybe new or for the first time, or even something that you're doing I mean, you've done it countless times, or maybe somebody has said something about it, and you're like, ooh, should I be doing this? And so you feel guilty. There's a sense of guilt that you have about leaving your child or whatever the case may be. And so, yes, mommy guilt is real.
Okay. How have you found to cope or manage the guilt or the pressure that comes with it?
So I look at the truth of the situation. Like
Okay.
with my son, when I left him for the first time, he was fine.
Mm.
It was like, which was crazy because he was young, but it's like he had been, because I left him with my parents, and it's like he had been with them the whole time. He wasn't crying. I mean, he was having like the best time. And so I look at like the truth of the situation, right? Because we tell ourselves these stories that aren't real.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever I'm facing some form of mommy guilt, like today, my son had a basketball game. I had testing being done in my office. I had to let my evaluator in, and I was late to my son's game. And so for the inkling of a second, I was like, he's gonna know that I'm not here. I was like, he's fine. He has a whole lot of support there, and I can say, I'm here. I may have missed the first 15 minutes, but I'm here. And so just bringing truth to a lie, because that's really what that guilt is. It's just a lie.
Wow, bringing truth to a lie.
Mm-hmm.
That's so powerful. So powerful. And I hope that frees someone that has been suffering or trying to be all things for all people. It's okay. It's going to be okay. I do wonder when it says, it says earlier, the days are long, but the years are short, to enjoy every moment. How do you stay in the moment?
And so I'll go back to this. I think before the pandemic, I don't think I did. I don't think I did a very good job of it. But with the pandemic and really slowing down, because interestingly enough, I had written in my journal, and I was like, Lord, I really want to spend more time with my sons, because at the time I was in school, so I was just juggling all these things. And so I was like, I want to spend more time with them. I didn't know that we were going to be on lockdown. They were going to be homeschooled. I mean, we were together a lot. I didn't know it was going to be quite to that degree. But I had said that, and what I realized was we were losing kind of touch with each other in that busyness. So and what I mean is, like, just taking them from place to place, having them in all of these different things. What I realized was, like, they just wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so kind of, in learning, in this whole learning process, I'm like, it's okay to be. We don't have to do 5 million things. And then the being, that means being present and reminding myself, everything else stops. I'm here with them full time. They have my full attention, and I'm just going to be with them in the moment. And so whenever I start to think about something else, I'm like, nope, this is where we are. This is what we're doing right now.
That's good for all of us, is to just stay in the moment. Our brains naturally go to, I want to do, okay, wait, no.
Yes.
But I could be, because we have trained our brains to multitask.
Yes.
And it's so hard.
It is. But you can't do multiple things well at one time.
No. Yeah, she's so right, but also. One of the things you quote on your Facebook page is harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why you chose harmony and not balance.
Well, just like I said, you can't do multiple things at one time and be good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's an illusion about balance. Like you have to balance. It's not really about balancing. It's really about creating this place of harmony, knowing that maybe this priority takes precedent for this moment. Not to say that the other thing is not important, but for right now, the priority is getting this done. And so it's creating a harmonious state within yourself and within the things you have to do. If you're going to be, a mom and have a career and be a wife, all of those things are important, but some things are going to take precedence over something else at some point. That's just how life works. And so it's about creating a harmony and being okay with the fact that you have to prioritize one thing for that moment over something else.
Right. That's so good. What advice would you have for new moms that are trying to figure out this harmony, because their lives have now shifted in a very dramatic fashion. They may have had a very good harmony.
Yes.
Them and their spouse or them by themselves, they were working them things out. Now here comes this new person that they love a whole lot, but whoa, they came in with a whole different symbol.
Right? For new moms, for new parents, I would say the most important thing is asking for help. Having a village around you to offer you support. So I saw this morning on Instagram, it was a mom. She was coming to her best friend's house to bring her baby so she could take a nap. So it's having that kind of village or that kind of support. And it looks different for everyone. You know, your daycare sometimes is your support. And so it's having that level of support and even asking for help, because sometimes that's the thing too. No one knows that you're over here suffering because you haven't said anything. And so it's asking for help and having that village to support you.
That's good. That's good. Asking for support, asking for help is very important. You are also a podcaster.
I am.
What inspired Raising Sons?
I want to say it was my sons, but it wasn't them in it entirely. I have had a love for working with men and boys for a long time, and that's something that just kind of rose up, or the Holy Spirit reminded me of during the pandemic, because when I graduated from undergrad and I was going into grad school, I wanted to work in the prisons, in the prisons with men, helping them to improve their lives. And so that was like kind of my focus. My initial thought was to do psychology and law.
Wow.
And then I realized that maybe if I started a little bit younger, I'd have greater success.
Gotcha.
Just over time, I had a cousin when I was, he's a few years younger than I am. He has ADHD. And because of, lack of knowledge, lack of resources, his life just has taken on a different trajectory. And I have always, some other things happened. And what I realized was that I had been in this mode to try to save. I wanted to save him and I couldn't. And so since then I had been in this mode to save boys.
Wow.
And so they just have my heart. And so it's no surprise that God would give me sons. But I do think it's a different kind of parenting when you are of a different gender.
Gotcha.
So there's so many things that my husband has had to point out to me where I find even them telling me like, Mom, don't do that. Like, that's embarrassing. Or, just different things that I found in raising sons that's just different than, I didn't grow up with brothers, so I don't know what that's like. I've had cousins, but it's different. And so I was like, if I'm experiencing this like this, I know there are other moms who are experiencing the same things, and it's things to look out for, or even why maybe it's not good to hug your son when he's, at his track meet or those kind of things.
Gotcha.
And so I love them, and they're different. They are different from me. We're wired differently. We think differently. And so I think that's something that, parents, raising the podcast is just giving ode to that.
So how can people find the podcast?
It's everywhere you can find a podcast. So it's on Apple, Spotify, all the places that you can find podcasts.
Excellent. And if you had to tell folks, listen to this particular episode is the defining episode for Raising Sons, which one would that be?
So I would actually say listen to the trailer.
The trailer.
Because it talks about all the different episodes we'll cover on the podcast. And so I'd say listen to the trailer.
Listen to the trailer. So listen to the trailer, Raising Sons. Excellent. I do have one question before we shift to the final segment. What is the one thing you want your sons to know about Black women watching you?
Wow. I think the most important thing that I want my sons to know is that while we are strong, there's a humanity, or there's a softness to us. And so I know, and I'm a work in progress, I know that they don't always see the softer side of me. And so I want to be more intentional about allowing them to see that, not just the strength. And part of that is because they will encounter women, all throughout their lives, or even when they get married, and to be able to know that, yeah, my wife is strong and I love that about her, but there's also a tenderness to her that I need to make sure that I'm, speaking to, talking to, understanding. And I just think that it'll be so much easier for them if I'm able to show that to them, and then they're able to do that with their wife and other women that come into their lives.
Excellent. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So the final segment is where we talk about your journey ahead. So as you seek the Lord for the next phase of your joy journey, would you dare share your hope for yourself, for your family, for your practice, over the next 5 years?
Where do I want to start? With my family, my hope is that we leave a legacy of not generational wealth, but emotional wholeness. Because I know we talk a lot about generational wealth, but if you don't have the knowledge and the understanding that goes along with that can be corrupted, right? But I want them to have that whole emotional wellness so that it's out of fulfillment and joy that they're able to serve others, and that wealth is not just for them, it's for everybody else. They're a blessing to others. That's my hope for my sons and for our family in the next 5 years. And we're constantly teaching and being intentional about emotional wellness and helping them to understand how that then helps them with building wealth. In terms of the practice, my hope and prayer is that it grows and that it becomes one of the premier places where families who have children who are suspected of or who have a disability can come to and not just get a diagnosis, but they also can get the additional services that are so much needed that I think leave parents with confusion after they have a child with a disability. And so having that wraparound service, being in corporate sectors where we're working with parents that are coming that transition back from maternity paternity leave, and then Raising Sons is doing what it's doing, and I'm speaking hopefully internationally. So the podcast is really picked up in South Africa.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, and it's only we've rebranded, and so that's only been in the last 3 months. So I'm excited to see where that goes and hope that grows in the next 5 years.
That's awesome. That's incredible. That's awesome, incredible. And so I want to thank you for your work and your diligence, your advocacy for individuals, especially children with special needs. I serve as the disability program manager for employees with disabilities at Johnson Space Center, and it is needed as adults, but especially as children, and parents need to know that they have resources that are available so that when they become adults, they can advocate for themselves.
Absolutely.
And know that their disabilities are not weaknesses, just differences.
Yes.
So the work is so vital. And so thank you.
Thank
you. So where can people find your services?
For testing services, you can find us at providentialcounseling.com. Our office is in 3rd Ward. For everything else, you can find me at RichelleWhittaker.com.
Please comment your favorite takeaway from this episode. And until we gather again every single Thursday, be sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts. And until we gather again, may God increase your joy, grant you strength for the journey, and give you the courage to tell your story. Bye, friends.